Uh-oh. News! Okay, we'll start with this. Teofimo Lopez versus Subriel Matias finalizing a March 15th fight. March? That's when Gervonta Davis is supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach, if that fight is still even happening. According to Gervonta, it isn't. Teofimo Lopez and Subriel Matias are finalizing a deal for a March 15th fight for Lopez's WBO junior welterweight title, sources told ESPN on Monday. The 140-pound title fight, Lopez's third defense, will headline Top-Rank Boxing on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. There's no location set, but the bout will take place in the United States. Lopez, 21-1 with 13 KOs, is ESPN's #1 junior welterweight. The former undisputed, he was never undisputed, lightweight champion is coming off a June decision victory over Canadian-level fighter Steve Claggett. Before that, Lopez struggled in a decision win over Jermaine Ortiz back in February. In fairness, he struggled with Steve Claggett, too. The 27-year-old Brooklyn, New York native won the title in dominant fashion from Josh Taylor in June of last year. Lopez's best win came in October of 2020 when he outpointed future Hall of Famer Vasyl Lomachenko for the lightweight championship. Matias, 21-2 with 21 KOs, is ESPN's #8 boxer at 140. He lost his IBF title to Liam Pato in June in a major upset in Puerto Rico, where he was born and still resides. The 32-year-old volume puncher is one of the sport's top action fighters. Matias rebounded from his second loss with a second-round TKO of career opponent Roberto Ramirez in November. Matias avenged his previous loss with a 9th-round TKO of Petros Ananian in January of 2022. Matias won the IBF title with a 5th-round TKO of a then-unbeaten Jeremias Ponce in February of last year and stopped Shohan Ergashev in round 5 later that year in his lone successful defense. And this is the guy that Teofimo will finally be making his pay-per-view debut with. May come as strange to many of you that for as long as Teofimo has been around and been in the public eye with some of the more high-profile victories that he's had, he hasn't actually fought on pay-per-view yet. The Lomachenko fight, the Taylor fight, those were all regular fights as part of a regular schedule. So then why is this a pay-per-view? Why indeed. Boxing insider Rick Lacier reacted to the news by saying Teofimo versus Matias is happening March 15th on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Matias is too slow, has no ring IQ to beat Teofimo, and this definitely shouldn't be on pay-per-view. Pay attention to the last part. Rick doesn't think this is pay-per-view worthy. Do you? The indictment against this fight is, if we already saw Matias on a regular fight as part of a regular schedule where he lost to Liam Pato, why should we have to turn around now and pay more to see Teofimo fight that same fighter? It's going to be interesting to see what the price point is. Is it going to be $75 or $80 like those PBC pay-per-views? Or will it be somewhat less, say in the neighborhood of $50 or $40? And if it is, does that make it better? Top Rank has done a very good job of keeping a good number of their fights off pay-per-view. Some years ago, that's what Bob Arum said he would do. He's going to hold off on doing as many fights on pay-per-view as possible, and he's done that.
So then why is this a pay-per-view?
I get the sense that the only reason they're doing this as a pay-per-view is to try and satisfy what Teofimo wants.
That if Devin Haney could fight Regis Prograis on pay-per-view and Gervonta Davis can fight all of the stumble bums that he fights on pay-per-view, why can't he fight Matias?
On pay-per-view, that's what he tells himself. That's the logic, but irrespective of his rationale, the market dictates the value of a show. The market itself dictates what's pay-per-view worthy and what isn't, and I'm sorry to say, this isn't.
It's a good fight.
Subriel Matias is still a dangerous guy at 140 pounds, and it's not like Teofimo looked great with Steve Claggett, a lower grade of pressure fighter than Matias.
It's just not pay-per-view worthy.
I wouldn't be surprised to hear that this fight might land at the theater in Madison Square Garden in New York City, where there is a large Puerto Rican contingent there to support Matias and where Teofimo Lopez is from. He's from Brooklyn.
This might draw a decent-sized crowd.
Teofimo has since enlisted the aid of veteran trainer Eddie Reynoso. We all know trains Canelo Alvarez, but you wonder if he hired him in time. Is one camp with Eddie gonna be enough for Teofimo to start showing improvements?
Like I said, he looked bang average with Steve Claggett, and Steve, at his very best, is a domestic-level Canadian club fighter. That's how he looked with him. How's he gonna look with Subriel?
He's a better grade of pressure fighter than a Steve Claggett. I understand that Subriel has his limitations, and we all saw what they were with Liam Butto, but he is still a cut above a Steve Claggett. So stylistically, Teo has the right style for the job. He's got the right style for a pressure fighter.
Speed and counters. But power!
He doesn't punch at 140 like he used to at 135. And if a single shot is not enough to get Subriel's respect and not enough to keep him off, what happens?
That's what you pay to see.
I like the fight, and I'm probably gonna buy it, though I don't think it's pay-per-view worthy. Teofimo has been on the hunt for a big fight. Offers are said to have gone out to anyone from Devin Haney to Boots Ennis. No dice with them. So they've landed on Subriel Matias. This fight was a conversation for a bit back when Subriel had a belt. It's a shame that the fight is only now happening when he doesn't.
When he ain't got one.
Admittedly, I like the fight and I'm gonna buy it, but I'll understand if most of you don't.
Who's gonna be on the undercard?
Well, if the fight is in New York City, the way I think it's gonna be, it might be a good idea to get Xander Zayas, yet another Puerto Rican fighter of Puerto Rican descent, to draw some Puerto Ricans to that show.
Xandor.
If Top Rank has any other Puerto Rican fighters of Puerto Rican descent lying around, they should populate the undercard with them, as well as Shushu Carrington, a Brooklyn native like Teofimo claims to be.
Teo's really from Florida.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea to have Bruce on the undercard as well. Maybe it could be for a title.
If between now and March, Rafael Espinoza moves up, vacates the WBO, you can do Carrington versus Kagai for the newly vacated WBO title.
Just an idea.
And do you think, in that regard, like, you can break David Morell? Do you think you stop him in this fight?
I definitely do think I could hurt him. I'm gonna do my game time to the best of my abilities to try to hurt him as much as possible. If the knockout comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, my game plan is gonna be on him all night.
Well, when is that not the game plan for a pressure fighter? That's not even a knock on David either. It's just that pressure fighters, they don't change much from one fight to the next. The plan is always the same.
The way he fights one guy is the way he's gonna fight another.
And literally try to hurt him every round. For him giving up, I don't know. I think that's the question. You know, we want to see if David Morell really has that heart or if he could, has that dog in him.
It's fair to ask that question of David Morell because the man only has 10 or 11 professional bouts. That's really not a lot.
No violins for him either. He wanted this. He asked for it.
But it is a fair question. Can he handle the pressure? David will be a better fighter than any other fighter David Morell has fought so far.
I'm gonna be trying to hurt him every single round. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like I said, this fight, I feel really strong. I feel really, everything feels good right now to me. I'm injury free. I'm training, really good. I've been training for a long time, and I'm just ready for this. I'm ready to excel in my career and to get the biggest challenges out there.
The biggest challenge will be the winner of Better Be versus Bivol. This is just an appetizer. This is just the prelude.
What do you think? I know we talked about experience, but what do you think is going to be the key factors that makes you the better fighter and wins you the fight?
I don't know. I think you just have to wait and see. I mean, there's a lot of things, but you have to wait. You have to wait and see February 1st.
David Benavidez didn't say it himself, but the biggest thing he's got working for him going into this fight is experience. He has a lot more experience, more fights, more rounds in the bank, against a better caliber of fighter than anybody that David Morell has fought so far. So if he's got something working for him, it's that.
It's experience.
That was part of taking the Morell fight. Like, I got to prove a point here. I can't cry about Canelo wanting to not fight me and then not give the young guy. They're saying I don't want to fight that fight.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be a hypocrite. That's what I said. And it wasn't that I wasn't giving him the opportunity. It's just that, to be honest with you, Caleb was a bigger fight than him. Boo Boo was a bigger fight than him. And then coming up to 75, when I came up, he came up right behind me. So it was perfect because he got his belt and I got my belt. And that's what I'm saying. Now is the perfect time to make this fight happen.
Maybe it's timing, at least timing in part, but it's also a scarcity of options. Who else was David Benavidez going to fight in a main event slot on a pay-per-view? We know that the PBC are doing pay-per-views almost exclusively now. So for a pay-per-view and a main event slot, who else was he going to fight?
You can't charge people $75 or $80 to watch him fight Jesse Hart.
I feel like this was really the only option for David Benavidez to go back to headlining his own shows, because the last time we saw him, he was on an undercard, Gervonta's undercard.
Want to headline your own shows, you've got to step it up a bit.
Now this fight, like the Teofimo Lopez fight, isn't actually pay-per-view worthy, but it is a good fight. I mean, I do want to see it. I am intrigued. The PBC operating out of necessity, that's a big part of the reason it's a pay-per-view, though in a very general sense, it is also the byproduct of a generation of fighters that felt almost entitled to fight on pay-per-view for a few extra bucks. The question is, are the extra bucks actually there?
So maybe the previous era of fighters before this one had a better understanding of how things work, that pay-per-view isn't for everybody because everybody didn't end up on pay-per-view.
These days, almost everybody does, and everybody wants to, creating this imbalance within boxing's infrastructure, within the boxing sphere and the boxing economy, and time again, what the numbers show
is for the few extra dollars you're looking for on pay-per-view, you would have been better off billing it as a regular fight at a reasonable price, because a lot of people are not going to see this. Not legally.
Reasonable price?
The operational costs. What it takes to do the show, what it takes to pay the fighters to get them in the ring with each other.
A reasonable price. But when every single fighter with two hands and a gum shield fancies themselves the next big thing, self-entitled pay-per-view draws, well, there's going to be an imbalance. There's going to be a problem.
Enter a fight like this. It is a good fight. I want to see it.
So many are trying to lower the bar of standard for all these pay-per-views that regularly underperform, and nothing changed.
I know we have to account for inflation and fighters' egos and all those things, but if you're talking about a fight where there's a grassroots demand for it, it's gonna sell.
If the demand is big enough, what's happening now is the egos are bigger than the grassroots demand.
So here we are.
Yeah, it's a good fight, but it's not $75 good. It's not $80 good. No, sir.
Next, I want if Dubois win in February, I want to see Usyk and Dubois again.
Again, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And I want to see Tyson, maybe with Joshua or something. We will decide.
I was going to say, just very quickly, I just spoke to Eddie Hearn. We know that we've all, as British boxing fans, we've been desperate to see Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
Let's see what can happen.
Do you think it's realistic?
Everything in reality is realistic.
Absolutely.
It's my time now. It's time to hand over the crown. It's passing of the...
You want the winner?
Yeah.
Well, you want the winner. You want Usyk.
I want Usyk now. Yeah.
Did you think he deserved?
In Wembley. Get him in Wembley.
Did you think he deserved to win tonight?
Daniel, talk to me. You're knocking out Usyk next.
Knocking out.
Straight out.
Smash.
And so the avenue of opportunity is there for an Usyk versus Dubois rematch. He's already had a rematch with Anthony Joshua and with Tyson Fury. It would seem that Daniel is a logical choice if he is to stay in the heavyweight division and have this fight. If he won it, he would be a two-time undisputed champion. Being an undisputed champion, you are part of a short list already. But being a two-time undisputed heavyweight champion, that is a much, much shorter list.
Daniel says he wants it at Wembley. I don't think he has the kind of pull, the kind of juice to demand where the fight is going to be. Of course he wants it there. He wants home field advantage. That's what all these fighters have had against Alexander Usyk over him, and it didn't work.
He fought Michael Hunter in America, Krzysztof Glowacki in Poland, Murat Gassiev in Russia, and Mairis Briedis in Latvia, Tony Bellew and Derek Chisora in the UK, as well as Anthony Joshua.
It's almost shameless for Daniel to demand it happen at Wembley, given everything this man has gone through to get to this point. You're demanding he fight you in your neck of the woods, so you stand a better chance. We all know that's what it is.
But does he really have the juice to make those kinds of demands? You're fighting on Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivor's undercard.
You got a belt.
But it's only because Alexander let you have it. He was all tied up with the Tyson Fury rematch. That's the only reason you're a champion now. Don't forget, he didn't win that belt from Anthony Joshua. Daniel was already the champion going in. Daniel is riding high. He has reason enough to be. He beat Filip Hrgovic. He beat Jarrell Miller. He shocked the world by beating Anthony Joshua. Though how much has he really changed? In terms of his approach, we know that he's supremely confident. He's coming into his own. He's a man now who believes in himself. But as far as his boxing, he's not that different from the way he was before. He was a bulldozer before. He fought that way. And he's a bulldozer now.
Usyk would probably still be the betting favorite going in.
If the fight were to happen, though I'm not completely sure that it will, because boxing Daniel is not Usyk's only option. There was some talk of moving down to cruiserweight.
Things to consider.
Daniel's got to make it through Joseph Parker for any of this to become a reality, and I do think he's going to. I think he's going to plow through Joseph Parker like Joe Joyce plowed through Joseph Parker.
Joe didn't have to do anything spectacular to bust that guy up. He just kept throwing punches and pressing him. That's what Daniel's going to do, I think.
I think Daniel is going to knock him out. That's my pick. But just imagine if I'm wrong, and just imagine if he doesn't, and Daniel loses. So soon after the biggest win of his career, he gets upset by Joseph Parker, how Wilder got upset, how Zhilei Zhang got upset.
The trifecta.
Yeah, Daniel's riding high, but so is Joseph Parker. He's gone on a tier 2. So there is that to consider. And in the heavyweight division, you never really know until the fight is over.
I'm going with Daniel, but I've been wrong before. Will I be wrong in February?
If I am, there goes that Usyk rematch. And then maybe the conversation becomes about Usyk versus Parker. Usyk versus Joseph Parker.
Stranger things have happened in the sport of boxing.
The silver lining is any one of these matchups are viable because it's Turkey's interest to put on the best fight possible between the best available fighters. So Usyk versus Dubois, Usyk versus Parker, it's all possible.
And in a timely fashion. That's the game changer. That you don't have to wait a year and a day for fights of this caliber anymore.
We'll get the answers we need in late February.